At first glance, you might think that Nathaniel Jacobs is the quintessential jock. He's got a rich father who built nearly half the town, he's popular, and he's on the high school's football team, but just like Nate and most boys his age, there are many layers to his character. Let me explain.
The Big Dipper.
I used to think Nate is just this popular kid who runs East Highland. It's the same when he appears at parties. Since Nate is the life of the party, he lets everybody know that he's arrived and is the party starter. He gets the party going, and if you aren't a part of the vibe, he just might press you for it. Ever since he was a kid, Nate has had a problem with dominance. Due to him finding his father's videos at a very young age, he decided to consume them. This pretty much rewired his still developing brain. To add to this, since he was a kid, his father told him not to be weak. So he kind of adopted this hardened tough guy mentality, basically embodying every characteristic of a toxic male. This is a prevalent theme in Euphoria when it comes to male figures. I'm quickly going to touch on a side character here who is also similar to Nate in this regard, and that is Christopher McKay. We see in episode 6 that his father basically told this guy his entire childhood not to be weak and you gotta fight back at the world. That's why during that scene of him making love to Cassie, he tries to hold back his tears in the bathroom. Once he comes out, he pretends like nothing happened and he proceeds to try to have sex with her, but obviously he can't get an erection. The point is, either way, it's just abysmal. Anyways, back to Nate. Nate almost has these primal characteristics when it comes to his persona that's very superficial. I know Nate likes to go around like he's this macho guy, he tries not to show emotion, he tries to always assert his dominance, but this is basically a way to cover up the fact that he's deeply troubled and he's actually nothing but a coward. The perfect example of this is how he gets revenge on Tyler. During the pool party with Maddy, she tried to spite Nate by taking Tyler into the pool and kissing him. Nate took this a step further and later down the line, he sneaks into Tyler's apartment and he puts the paws on him. He basically rearranges this guy's face and tries to get it out of him that he raped Maddy. We don't really know if that's the actual case, but Nate just wanted him to say it so it made him feel better. Also, this is just to assert his power over someone who's actually much older than him. It was clearly a threat. He was sending a message when he did this. I'm not even surprised Nate messed up Tyler, cause this is the same dude who pressed his own father in his own home. Nate reminds me of a certain war leader, Genghis Khan. Nate really likes to conquer and divide people apart. Moreover, he likes prized possessions, he likes trophies. But I'm not talking about the real materialistic object, I'm talking about people. He does this with Maddy. Let's just be objective about this. Maddy is far from ugly. To Nate, she's somewhat of a plaything. I know that may sound a little bit controversial, but this becomes very evident during the carnival when he pushes her against the trailer. He pretty much shows that he wants her when he would like, and if she disobeys his orders or doesn't listen to him, he's allowed to just be rough with her and throw her around as though she's an object. This is another trait of toxic masculinity. Going back to the analogy I made earlier about the warlord reference, there's another divide and conquer tactic that Nate likes to do, and that's to sleep around and act as though it's absolutely harmless. This is most common in season 2 when he starts to hook up with Cassie. He doesn't really have any remorse that this is Maddy's best friend. To him, like I said, these are just collectibles, they are just trophies, so to him, it's rather more of an ego boost and it just makes him feel more like a quote-unquote man. Nate is pretty much a bully. This is most evident from the way he treats Jules. I like how at the party, when Jules and Nate had their first interaction, he was being mean and then she retaliated by slitting her wrist. But for Nate, it wasn't enough. He had to continue to troll her, he had to catfish her. Later on down the line in the first season, he even prints out these photos of her and uses them as blackmail. Nate is basically this guy who's on the hunt for Jules because I'm pretty sure he likes her, he just doesn't want to admit it. He's trying to make himself seem like the virtuous hero as if he's doing a good thing, but in all honesty, he could just leave her alone. Another case, a prime example of this bullying behavior is the way he treats Tyler again late in the first season when he sneaks back into his apartment even though this dude is pretty much walking around with a half-broken face, broken bones and broken limbs. Nate doesn't care. The implication from this is that Nate is a cold monster with little to no empathy for human life. He has no regard for him, even though he's the one who put him in the hospital. He bullies Tyler into going to the police station and admitting that he's the one that choked and assaulted Maddy, even though we all know that that's a lie. The fact that Nate is also much taller than most of his peers also adds to this intimidating appeal of his character. Nate is the epitome of a wolf in sheep's clothing. He's not afraid to take extreme measures in order to get what he wants. It's hard to call Nate a villain because he probably thinks he's doing good. He's spiraling, but he doesn't see it. Nate is very scared of being seen as weak. He doesn't want people in his hometown to see him as this docile beta male. That's why even from a little kid, he was pushing the weights, channeling this inner anger and trying to get big before he was actually physically capable of pushing people around. He does masculine activities. That's part of the reason why he looks at his father with so much disgust after finding those videos that he saw when he was a kid. Not because necessarily his father has been cheating on his wife, he doesn't really care that Martha is just there as a side piece. Nate is just surprised that this man likes other men and even trans people, because to Nate it goes against everything his father used to tell him as a kid, so he can't respect him because he feels like he isn't a proper masculine figure. He sees the hypocrisy of Cal but doesn't know how to deal with it. This point really gets reiterated when Nate is busy having a manic episode in their home and is on the floor. He's scared that his father is touching him, so he retaliates by calling him the F slur. You know, if there's one thing that I really like about Nate Jacobs, it's how he subverts the jock stereotypes and tropes in most TV shows and movies. This dude is actually really smart, like most villains. This man is cold and calculated. Let's give him his credit. For example, just look at how he treated the entire Jules scenario. He pretended to be somebody else. He was very charismatic and charming in order to gain her trust. He was a smooth talker in order to siphon information from Jules. Once he acquires what he wants, he uses this info as blackmail that he later told her that if you don't do what I say, I'm going to tell everybody that you are sending inappropriate messages to a minor. That's not the only time Nate showed he has brains and not only brawn. Another time is when he clapped back at Fez. When he goes to the convenience store, he buys a few things and then Fez tries to press him and says, "Yo, leave Rue and her friends alone." Then Nate, of course, being the quote-unquote alpha male that he is, he had to show him who's the boss. So he basically gives Fez a taste of his own medicine by telling him he's a dropout and he's dumb and all he's capable of doing is selling drugs to high schoolers. Basically trying to tell him that, hey man, you're no different from me, now leave me alone. He doesn't just push and tackle like he's on the football field. With that being said, Nathaniel Jacobs is a terrifying villain. But you know what's more diabolical? The hamstrings on this guy. Holy shit, you know a man is a threat when he doesn't skip leg day.
Hey, if you enjoyed this video, consider watching one of the two on your screen right now. And don't forget, villains tell the best story.